Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. The Trump-Putin meeting may have long-term consequences not only for Ukraine and NATO's eastern flank, but also for countries which seek to emancipate themselves from the Russian regional dominance. And to talk about the Caucasian perspective of the Alaskan summit, we're joined by Grigol Julukhidze, Associate Professor at the Caucasus University. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. Now, Grigol, when the Georgians, Armenians and Azerbaijani, when they talk about the summit in Alaska, what sentiments prevail?
Unpredictable. It's very difficult to predict what is about to happen in the context of the negotiations between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Uncertainty, that's the first idea that comes to our mind, because the stakes are very high, as President Trump has already mentioned. And apart from that, we have to understand that the effects of the ultimate results of these negotiations will have tangible and extremely important effects on the future of the South Caucasus, because over the past few days we saw the involvement of the White House in terms of the mediation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. A historic decision was made, which does not guarantee that it will be fully implemented, but still the role of the United States of America and decreased involvement of Russia have been noticed over the past few days. Apart from that, we have to understand that these negotiations have extremely important meaning for Georgia as well, especially amid a very complicated geopolitical situation, growing influence of Russia in Georgia, first of all owing to the decision of the Georgian Dream to shift its geopolitical trajectory and open the door to the authoritarian powers, regional powers. Of course, it means also that the weakened positions of the European Union. And to cut a long story short and directly answer to your question, I would say that this meeting will have game-changing importance for this region if tangible results are achieved there.
Right. Now, the negotiations you mentioned between Azerbaijan and Armenia under the U.S. auspices. Now, do you think that Donald Trump can employ the very same tactics in mediating between Ukraine and Russia?
First of all, we have to understand the intention of Vladimir Putin, which is extremely difficult. We have an impression that he's not there to achieve any kind of consensus or a solution, because that's my personal opinion, that he's aiming at continuing this invasion and is bluffing all the time, because it is very difficult to trust Vladimir Putin. Apart from that, this issue is very important, but also the issue related to the interest of Donald Trump right now. His main interest is to show up and show to the world that he's able to keep his pre-election promise to finish this war. It is very difficult. It is extremely hard to predict what's going to happen, but I'm certain one thing, that this meeting will have extremely significant meaning in terms of showing the geopolitical I would say, intentions that the countries have, like Ukraine, that is able to, despite the ongoing invasion and aggression that come from Russia, is still ready to find a solution from this situation. But once again, I have to repeat that the stakes are extremely high, and the positions and interests of conflicted sides oppose to each other directly.
Right. Now, on Thursday, Donald Trump didn't rule out withdrawing some of NATO troops from NATO's eastern flank in Europe. Now, what consequences would it have for the Caucasus region, for the republics who seem to unshackle themselves from this Russian regional dominance?
Mm-hmm. Well, Azerbaijan, we can say that is beyond the Russian influence right now because of its strategic alliance with Turkey. As for Armenia, Of course, Vladimir Putin and his entire government is directly interested in removing Pashinyan from the government, and that's why 2026 parliamentary elections will be extremely important. And we have to admit that Russia proceeds a lot of measures to subvert and undermine state security. And as for Georgia, we see quite a pessimistic scenario in which the Georgian government has already made its bet and analyzed the current war in Ukraine in terms of the inevitable victory of Russia and its increased regional influence in the South Caucasus. And that's why we see a completely different situation right now in the Caucasus. Once Georgia was the front runner in terms of democracy, European and Euro-Atlantic aspirations, but right now we see absolutely the opposite. And as a contrast, we have noticed the growing interest from Yerevan to approach to the European Union, but still we have to understand one very important thing, that without Georgia, pro-Western Georgia, the chances of Armenia to break through and reach rapprochement with the European Union, I mean tangible rapprochement, is absolutely impossible, and Russians understand that quite well. That's why their main interest right now is to keep this uncertainty, a type of chaos in which they will be able to operate and achieve their strategic goals, like divide the South Caucasus and decrease the influence of the West in this region.
Now, the Russian war machine is running pretty smoothly, and once the peace in Ukraine is achieved, hopefully, what will happen with all these soldiers, with all these tanks? Now, I mean, what stops Russia from settling the matters in Caucasus to their liking?
Well, in case of Georgia, the Russian Federation controls narrative there. I mean, if we monitor, and we do, the statements of the Georgian Dream ruling party, we see that they are quite antagonistic towards West right now, which is in direct interest of the Russian Federation. It means that Moscow is not interested in using sharp power in Georgia to achieve its political goals. From this point of view, the threats are extremely minimal. As for Armenia, as I have already mentioned, 2026 elections will be game changer. If Pashinyan manages to keep his government and keep his positions as the highest ranked politician there, it means that Russia may organize their coups, coup d'etats, or some hybrid operations in order to undermine the situation. As for Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan is in a safe zone, I would say, because of its brotherhood with Turkey and the growing influence of Ankara as well, because Turkey is planning to establish...
I mean, Turkey is a powerful regional player. Exactly. It is a NATO member. But then, on the other hand, you know, the very similar situation happened in this corner of Europe with Ukraine, which also seeked, you know, to look rather westwards than towards Russia. So, you know, that's why I have so many doubts.
Yes, but as for Ankara, Ankara is not represented in the South Caucasus as a leading democratic power. It has quite well-defined regional interests, and beyond regional, extra-regional as well, which are not in line with the West, with the collective West, because Ankara is not really interested in the democratization of Georgia, Azerbaijan, or Armenia. It means that Ankara is applying quite selfish approach in terms of reaching its objectives. And we can say that has already become, together with Russia, main external actors in this region. And as for Russia, of course, Russians are not happy with the growing influence of Ankara, but in this situation, they are not ready to oppose to their growing influence. Nothing.
Right. Now, talking about the meeting itself, before the summit in Alaska, Donald Trump decided it would be wise to call whom? Alexander Lukashenko. Now, in his own words, we discussed many topics, including President Putin's visit to Alaska. I look forward to meeting President Lukashenko in the future, Trump wrote on his social media. Now, what is the American president doing trying to legitimize Lukashenko's rule?
Frankly speaking, sometimes I have an impression that President Trump, he doesn't know what he wants, because his decisions are changed on a daily basis and counterposed to the positions that he had taken a day before. It means that it is very difficult to predict what President Trump is going to do. And of course, he's not the only one who's taking decisions in these strategically important matters. State Secretary is directly involved in this process. So checks and balances in this regard exist. As for his statement when it comes to Lukashenko, well, I have an impression that he's trying to be nice to Mr. Putin sometimes and gains some kind of strategic advantage before these negotiations. But those ones who know President Putin quite well understand that such methods and such tools do not effectively work in terms of convincing him.
Mm-hmm. Now, lastly, many commentators fear that Vladimir Putin may try to sway Donald Trump's opinion by offering him some, lucrative business opportunities. Now, what could
That's quite possible. Also, I have read several potential scenarios of these negotiations. One of them is Georgian scenario, in which the conflict will be general and occupied territories will be frozen without recognition as sovereign territories of Russia, without recognition of this annexation, which would be quite comfortable thing for many politicians, especially in the West, who are dreaming of restoring their bilateral commerce relations with Moscow, and even for Donald Trump, who will be able to keep his word and maintain his promise to end this war within a few hours.
Grigol Julukhidze, Associate Professor at the Caucasus University, was our guest this afternoon. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more news and interviews and many other features here on TVP World.